From the nation's capital, welcome to Your Source TV. I'm Tamara Stuchlak, and in this segment, we explore creativity. We have a musician, singer-songwriter. His name is Paul Makarov, and he formed his group Subversive in 1996. It's an urban alternative group. By day, he is a multimedia software developer, and by night he performs locally in the DC region with a strong fan base. So welcome, Paul, and we're so pleased to have you here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Do you know when you're ready to go create? I mean, how does that happen? Or do you sit down and have a routine?
Well, it's really interesting when you break it apart, because you have the being creative with music, and then you have being creative with lyrics, and so a lot of people have their own approach. My approach happens to be the music comes first, and then I kind of decide what that music's making me feel and how I'd like to go with it. And to give you a small example, I mean, maybe I'll write a rather sad or dark piece of music, and I'll really want to flesh that out, and so the lyrics would understandably be dark. But at other points, talking about being inspired, maybe maybe there's a possibility to make something enlightening about that experience or about that type of darkness that ends up being very positive or serving a double message, which I think is a lot more fun than just sort of hand delivering an idea to somebody with lyrics. Like you can have a song that means only one thing at one time because it's that one dimensional,
topical.
Right? And at other times you can have a song that, depending on your mood, it means different things to you. And so I spent a lot of my time trying to work on songs that had more than one meaning within them, and that's so. So there's a duality when I write a song, and sometimes I want it to sound happy, but really be kind of sarcastic or satirical, and other times I'll write a song that sounds sad, but the lyrics are kind of absurdly humoristic. You know.
So how do you spot creative music? You're striving for that in your music.
Right.
What makes it so?
Well, I think, and it would almost sound rather judgmental, but unfortunately, I don't really look to the radio so much these days as a way of really finding a lot of creative music. I think you have to sort of get involved in the scene and at least try to know a little bit about where that music's supposed to come from in general, or the type of people doing it. But specifically, when I hear a song that definitely sounds like it's different than something else played on the radio, I mean, and in fact, could be played on the radio, but when I hear it and it has a different quality to it, it doesn't sound like everything else, meaning it's a perspective that's somewhat different, then I'll take notice and want to figure out, it'll inspire me to want to figure out where they're coming from, and as such, I might be inspired by what they did to maybe create something in the same light.
So going back to this unique course that you took and really delving into the poetry, what makes it creative though in your mind? Is it what popularity says is creative, or is it something that an artist can define?
Well, I think, and again, it probably is pretty relative, but for me, definitely, I'm a big fan of contradictions. I'm a big fan of rather, dual meanings, satire in general. I'm a big fan of generous expression that will come out effusively but randomly in a song, and then maybe be knocked aside immediately in the next line or so by something different, by something more serious, or. So I think what I like is the crazy nature of this music I'm into. It really is very expressive, but it's also a bit random at that. And I mean, when I think back to classic poetry and stuff like that, I mean, I was originally inspired in poetry by a poem by the title of "The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock," and it was a very odd poem because it's basically, it's a poem about a dead body, for the most part, or about a love of a dead body, a dead person, and at least on the surface when you read it, and then you realize there's so many layers of meaning. And I think when you get down to it, the layers of meaning is really what makes it something interesting.
Didn't win the war, part of me died in my vacant city. But as I thought of who sent me to this tomb, I came before an angel. She told me not to fight, 'cause through me shone the light. If only I could love. But as I grabbed my mask, I felt the gentle blast. Years of toxic past. Asked the pain to take me home, 'cause I prefer to die alone. Asked the pain to take me home, 'cause I am out here on my own. As I said before, there was nothing left to reign. With no air to breathe, the grass had lost its green, the sky put forth a tear. But as I tried to cry, the sun had singed my eyes, and all I did was bleed. Everyone's waiting for them great, waiting for their freedom. Ask the pain to take me home, 'cause I prefer to die alone. Ask the pain to take me home, 'cause I am out here on my own.
Tell us more about that song.
It was a song written a long time ago, about around the same time that I started the band, and the title is "I Didn't Win the War," and one would believe at first glance that that song is actually about war in general, but life is basically a personal struggle, and I think when I wrote that song, it was about recognizing that you can try to succeed, you can try to do something with all of your energy, and you can still not succeed. And a lot of people would choose to sort of give up and try to forget their pain, or forget that it ever happened. But mine, I think the message I tried to convey in that song was that you should pretty much stick close to that, because that experience defines you, and that it's even the song title, "I Didn't Win the War," it's an admission that you tried to do something, you didn't succeed, and that alone is part of you. So, when I wrote that song, that was pretty much what I was feeling. And that brings me to another point, though, and that's also different about creative people, or the different types of creative people. But I write lots of songs, and I'll be the first one to admit that a lot of them aren't that good. But I will never take that away from myself, because I believe that in order to get to the good, I have to get out the bad, in the way first.
So you keep the judge away.
Absolutely, right. And I mean, ultimately, it's all creating something that wasn't there before. But I guess artist has a difficult task of trying to perfect their art, which is impossible. And at some point, you just sort of have to, I won't say give up on it, but realize that your ultimate goal throughout your life is to perfect your art. You can't stop at every single block on the way and try to perfect it at that moment. It has to, I think it has to be more of the perfection in journey rather than in execution at each particular moment. So, you know, I can write a whole table of songs that are all B-sides. They'll never see the light of day, and I can be quite happy with that because I had to flush that out of me in order to get to, you know, the really good song that I think a lot of people would get behind and a lot of people would appreciate.